Okay, howdy everybody out there. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm Jamie Bradley, and I'm joined by the beautiful, is that a professional way to say it? The beautiful soul, Mark McWatters, our VP of Sales.
I appreciate you using soul. I wasn't sure where you were going
Yeah.
there,
Well, I
but
said beautiful, and
I
I was
do
like, this
think I
feels
look
like an
good
H.
today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like this feels like an HR violation, so I'm gonna add, turn that into
Let's
whatever.
have some fun. Why
Let's
don't
have some fun, y'all. Yeah. So today we are talking about the sales gamification field guide. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to keep this going, try to keep it to about 30 minutes. If you do have questions, let us know. We'll circle back at the end. If not, don't worry. Hopefully you're going to learn something, and we will send this recording out. So just a little housekeeping there. Yes, if you need to hop off or you just want to share it with all your friends, we will get you on the backside. So, all right. So, what are we talking about today? Today, we are going to look at why sales gamification consistently works for really any org. Some tips for just getting started with a program that is worth doing, which also leads us to common mistakes that we see happen all the time. It doesn't mean that you're bad, it just means it's common. They're common mistakes, and we see them, and we're going to tell you about them so you can avoid them. Then we're going to look at the metrics that you track, because gamification is only as powerful as the metrics that you're trying to drive. That's why you're doing this after all. And then we're going to look at a customer of ours in this webinar. It's HighSpot, who is a really awesome B2B sales enablement platform that we love a lot. And they use our platform, and they got some crazy results. So you'll have to stick around to learn how they did it. So hopping in, what exactly is sales gamification? You can read this, but I mean, basically it is a tactic that you use. A lot of people think it's just contests, but really what sales gamification is at its root is a way to track the tasks and the daily productivity, and the items that someone may be doing during onboarding or an ongoing training program in your sales team. And it's just making those things like dials and emails sent and leads that are converting more engaging to your sales reps, which then in turn makes them want to track all the stuff more accurately. Magically, when there's skin in the game and there's a contest to win, people will get really good at Salesforce hygiene. And so then, all of those results and that productivity is just elevated. It's more visible to everyone else. Also, again, you can turn any necessary activity that must happen in the normal sales process into a game, which is kind of our favorite way to look at it. I mean, man, there was something yesterday in Slack that we gamified. I think it was like, oh yeah, we did an event. We sent the list around being like, hey, follow up with these people. And literally within 2 seconds, someone was like, whoever gets the first meeting set from this list gets $20. I'll Venmo them. Like, it was just like,
and
they're just spinning up spontaneously.
and
Yeah.
another example here is that we had our Slack integration fire off an activity score, which we'll dive into, and our top
Yeah.
SDR traditionally got beat by 1 point, and it's 7 o'clock at night,
Yes.
and they're calling each other
Yes.
out for who beat the other. So
It
um,
was
to your point here, it is about you can create this activity. I like to say on the unsexy metrics, right? Those early
right.
funnel activities that we all know matter, but that may not get the same attention as going to close one a deal. So
That is such a
that
good
is a
point.
great use for sales gamification, something we see quite a bit.
100%. Yeah. Like when a marketer just hands you a list of 1,000 names and you're like, lady, I got my day planned. And, we just make it fun, make it worth your while. So there's also some stats to back it up. So not only do we anecdotally just see it happening day in, day out, and we sell it and we believe in it, other people do too. So 89% of people that are on the receiving end of having to do sales gamification say that when a task at their job is gamified, they feel competitive and they feel more eager to complete it. So it's ramping them up. Games in the workplace can increase your ability to learn new skills by as much as 40%. So there's something to that, just gamification that lights up different parts of the brain. I will not get into brain science. Nobody wants that, but it's really neat. It's been proven that, and you think about it, like if you make learning how to tie your shoes into a game with your kids or something, they're going to remember that, and it makes it fun and engaging and repetitive in positive ways. So that's pretty cool. Harvard Business Review saw that new employees are 69% more likely to stay with a company for 3 years or more if they are provided well-formed onboarding. So when we talk about different places you can apply it, obviously you can apply gamification, in that daily kind of like, how many dollars are you going to make? Let's do a blitz. But it also is super important in that very beginning stage of them just retaining your process and those KPIs that they need to hit and all that good stuff. And if they learn it, they're going to stick around, and that's a good thing. 70%, here's a sad one, because of the face and the red. 70% of business transformation programs fail due to poor employee engagement. So that'll be important as we talk about sort of what other effects gamification has. It's not just that one-to-one, like, are they doing an activity? They actually get jazzed up. And so when people are trying to really move a needle or roll out a new initiative, which we'll talk about, it's vital that you get them engaged and hooked early, so that program can thrive.
And in a work from home environment, this is even harder. Talking to people out in the field, thinking about employee engagement, thinking about getting bought into the initiatives that the ivory tower rolls out. How do you know that Mark, who is 6 inches from his bed, cares and is bought into that culture? So this is very real, especially now.
Yeah, gosh, and your bed is so well made. I'm so proud of you.
I made it right before this.
I'm like, if this camera tilts even just a little bit, you're going to see all my flaws. 80% of employees enjoy gamification. So that's a lot of them. Little happy face. That's a great thing. So got to keep them engaged. Guess what? Gamification is something they actually like to do. So that's fun. Yay. And so now we're going to get into sort of so we talked about what it is, some stats around why it works. Now we're going to roll into sort of the things that you shouldn't do. And so we can kind of I want to just talk through these with you, Mark, because this is marketing, AKA me, putting this together. So if at any point I say something and you're like, that's wrong, let's just play it out in front of the kids. So number one is there's no why. So a lot of times something that we see with clients that are coming to us looking for solutions is that they know they need to do sales gamification, or honestly, maybe someone handed them an initiative that they need to roll out, but they don't really know what they're trying to change or affect. So some reasons to run a contest that we found that are common, and these are, jump in at any point, Mark, but number one is the reps are burned out, they're bored, and to Mark's point, disengaged. And again, this one's probably even more so right now than it ever has been before, I would
Absolutely, imagine. Yes. This is something that every sales leader, or really every leader of the business, is thinking about. I got a team that in 2020, if there was a hashtag for, is probably burned out. And especially sales teams, like, this was not an easy sales environment for folks to sell in. So how do you mix it up? How do you create some of that engagement and fun? A contest is one way to do it. What I would tell everyone to take a step back, though, when they're thinking about their contest and the know why, is think about your sales formula. And what I mean by your sales formula is how many activities does it take to set a meeting? How many meetings does it take for that meeting to hold, for that held meeting to convert? And keep going down your funnel, because when you can understand, even ballpark, your sales formula, then the why behind your contest can be really easy. Hey team, this is the number one indicator for closed won deals in 2020. This piece, we're going to run a competition around this piece for the next 30 days. Do you think your account executives care? Absolutely. Because you have taken what makes them more successful and you've put attention and more skin in the game on why they should pay attention there.
Absolutely. And we will look at that in more detail. I love that point, though. It's the what's in it for me. If you're not thinking about that for people outside and inside just as equally. A lot of times we think about, like, what's the consumer need? What's the buyer want? But it's like your staff has to also, you have to think about like, what's going to get them to do it outside of just like me paying you.
Yep.
Like we all want to understand like some meaning behind what we're coming in to do every day. Another point here, and I kind of touched on this in one of the stats, but like, if you feel like you're babysitting your reps, like if there are just consistent things, like some basic, like just admin stuff, honestly. And Mark, you probably can think of 50 examples from like
For
this
sure.
week, that like, if you feel like there are things that people aren't doing that are crucial to the business, amazing reason to run a contest, and just make it sort of it seems like tying value and meaning to these things. It isn't just Mark's telling you to do something and he's being a nag now. It becomes like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. This is reinforcing I'm going to be successful.
This point and the next one around logging things properly really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing your rep dislikes more, I don't know, maybe a stretch, than when you're pushing them on Salesforce adoption or CRM adoption or whatever system adoption. And a great use case around gamification, a great example for Ambition is that we have these scorecards, and these scorecards have weighted activities that create one activity score or objective score. Think like a super score for the day. And the value of that is, does the salesperson, do they know in real time if they're having a good day or a bad day? Well, when you build into that scorecard the important activities that are going to help them be successful, maybe some of those unsexy activities I was talking about earlier, when they're completely visible to themselves, their peers, their management team, then the commitment to making sure those happen is going to get better because of the visibility alone.
Yeah.
But also as a leadership team, you're thinking, how do I make sure frontline Mark knows what success looks like? That's an obligation these days. It's not like, hey, just go hit your number and I'll stay away from you. It's, hey, as a leader, I need to make sure you understand the process that gets you there. And being able to put that process, even if it's not the most fun parts of the job, you can create that environment where they're committed to making sure those happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Just took us to church, Mark. That was great. That was awesome. We have 5 of these, and I just looked at the time. I could talk about this all day because I think that is, I will say, we'll breeze through some of these others because the first one is, to me, to your point, it's crucial. If you mess up the rest of these, you have time to get it right, but you got to know why you're doing it. But to Mark's point, these kind of all piggyback on each other. So number 2 is there's no buy-in. So, you may have crafted the most beautiful contest ever that's going to get them to do all these magical things that you need them to do. And Mark touched on some of this in the previous slide, but if you can't get them to understand, again, like what's in it for them, and why this is useful, then, gamification just kind of feels a little surfacey, and it can be so impactful. So some tips there are to really communicate every aspect of the competition or contest before it begins. So not just, don't just explain the setup and the prizes, explain how the ultimate goal is tied to their success. So really a lot of what Mark just said. And then last but not least, making sure that the contest is tied to that long-term growth. And I think you really just sort of said a lot of that. Well, so we don't have to spend a ton of time here, but any
what I would elaborate here in a different way to think about this is another great use case when it comes to like professional development or tying to their success is think about using a longer term contest for behavior change. I'll give you a quick example. At Ambition right now, my account executives have initiatives around covering their named accounts, the best fits for Ambition. It's important for them and me to make sure in marketing to make sure they are covered, and we are exhausting those accounts because we know we have a great story to tell once we get in. Well, what better way to drive commitment around that behavior change? Because for us, this is a pretty new motion. Then launch a competition where they're competing against each other for named account coverage and meeting set. So think behavior change. I need to drive that. Why not use a longer term competition to do that in a fun, engaging way?
Smart. All right. Visibility. And we touched on this one a little bit too, but some good ways to surface all of the work. And this is specifically for the contest itself. So the first part was sort of like, we'll do the contest as a means to surface their activities. This is more, once the contest is running, how do you make sure that everybody, not just the sales reps, are bought in? And so some ways to do that are, something that we solve for, and what a lot of people come to us for, is that this just lives like on a spreadsheet, especially I'm sure remotely. Like, you're not even throwing this up on a whiteboard anymore. Like, that's back in my day. Like, it was just, there's a whiteboard, there's Jamie's name. I had to go over and ding a bell and run back or whatever. But, now it's in a spreadsheet, it's buried in someone's computer. But the visibility is so crucial, especially in this remote environment. So just making sure that your leaderboard is visible. Mark mentioned Slack alert. So making sure that there is a real time. It's not, after the competition's over in a month, we find out that so-and-so won. It's like, everybody can get fired up. Like, I was pumped. I was like, oh, I'll match. I'll give you $20 if you, yeah, hell yeah, let's go for it. Getting everyone kind of bought in, not only gets everybody pumped up, but it makes that work and that initiative so visible.
With visibility, you also want to think, just where is my team already living? For some people, that's in Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, that's in Slack. And so how can you automate visibility and recognition in those channels where VP of Sales Mark doesn't have to be ready to celebrate every piece that happens? Can I use technology to put that on blast, right? And there's no better time than now to think about those things as you're building pipeline, you're building initiative, you're changing behaviors for 2021, right?
Right.
So my one nugget here is just put this where people already live, because that simplifies the busy life of a manager and employee. And if you can automate it, makes life so much easier. Your spreadsheet, newsflash, probably isn't motivating too many people. So let's find a better way to do that.
As a marketer that makes a lot of spreadsheets, I'm aware. I'm like taking notes here. And last thing I want to say too is that, when we talked about this in 2020, it was like everyone's remote. But now we are starting to see some people, depending on where they are. I mean, especially if we have some foreign, we might have people in New Zealand, they're going to the beach and drinking Mai Tais with all their buddies. As we start to see more of these hybrid environments too, something I think that'll be super crucial is being mindful, just to Mark's point of like, okay, we now have our digital experience on lock, but now are we making sure that we've shored up the sort of remote experience with an in-person? So if you've got something on a TV, is that, and Ambition happens to do that, but like just being aware of what that experience is like when you've got people in multiple places.
If your gamification strategy is a sales TV, it's not good enough right now, because in a work from home environment or a hybrid environment, it's really difficult to make sure people are paying attention to just the TV. Right now, the reality, and I say this as a company that sells we do have an option that is TV specific. But we would be the first to tell you, in this environment, a TV alone isn't going to move the needle. You have to, again, go to where people are living, and that's where you can create the significant change.
Right. Number 4. And I'm a little divisive with my wording here, but I like to be
stir the pot.
I like to stir the pot, guys. This is a reality show. I'm not here to make friends. No. So number 4 is you're motivating the wrong people. And what I mean by that is that you're not leveling the playing field. You're designing contests that are only really setting up your people that are already your A players or your top performers to win, and everybody else is going to walk away feeling like garbage. And nothing is more demotivating than designing a situation where everyone doesn't have a chance to feel successful in that environment. So I have some tips, and then Mark, I want you to add to all of them, because I'm sure you have way more ideas. But one way is to extend your contest longer than a week. So as Mark was saying, looking at really tying it to their development. So looking at changes over time, and just making sure that, like, yes, and we'll talk about the different styles here in 2 seconds, but making sure that you're mixing in a healthy dose of, okay, we've got some hour-long kind of fun Blitz stuff, but we also are designing some longer tail stuff that is moving the needle over time and tied to initiatives. making sure that you incentivize like most improved metrics alongside best of. So it's not just this person got the best or the most. It's this person needed to be here. They made it here. They're also going to get called out and get some recognition. Also, a way to do that too is to focus on different types of metrics. So efficiency metrics. So instead of number of calls, you reward for call connects and meeting set and things that everyone is required to do, but it's not necessarily just churn and burn, like you're rewarding quality, not just quantity, and in reinforcing good sort of salesmanship. And that you're running team competitions that pair sort of newer people or lower performers with veterans or top performers, so that you've got teamwork, you've got camaraderie. What else? What am I forgetting?
Yeah, what I would summarize this in is think about moving your middle 70%. Your A players are always going to be A players. It's your B and C players that if you have 100 sellers and you can bump the middle 71%, that's huge. So how do you do that? And what she's pointing out, you run a team-based competition over an extended amount of time, let's call it a month or a quarter, on your efficiency metrics. So I love how she puts that, because it's about conversion rates, right? Or it's about a number of connects versus just a number of dials. And when you drive those efficiency metrics, those quality metrics, you're going to see a significant impact in this case, your pipeline downstream. So think team-based, A player pulling up D player, focused on efficiency metrics over that extended amount of time. And that's, for example, what the Harvard Business Review wrote about ambition for doing. So you want to be like the Harvard Business Review? Take that advice. Yep.
How do you like them apples? All right. And then last one is your incentives suck. I'm just laying it on here. And this is actually, I did a webinar with Mark last year, and this is probably just verbatim, where everything in here, I just am like compiling other things that smart people said, by the way. So thanks for the credit, but I'm just pulling it all together. The best incentives are, to quote Mark McWatters, something they desperately want, something they don't really need, and something they would never, ever buy for themselves. To also quote Mark, your incentive, what is it? Grandma incentives, gift cards, or grandma incentives.
That's right. If you're just giving away an Amazon gift card, let's take a pause. Pour one out for that bad idea. If you keep it for a couple of minutes, you'll come up with something better. Here's now they have like the coffee subscriptions that you can get like nice coffee delivered. I don't know. Take 2 seconds and you can think of something more creative. Oftentimes people blame their competition failing on the prize. The prize is rarely the problem. If you understand the why, like she talked about in the first piece, that's the most important part. Then if you can tie an incentive, which I would say, post-COVID, get into experiences again, because that's personally what we find motivates.
What I want.
Look at yeah. But also, if you're just thinking creative, now there are so many businesses that will send things to the home, like that coffee example I gave earlier. That's a great one. Or the other quick cheat I'll give you is, okay, you're like, Mark, I don't know what to do, but I have a budget of $50 per person. Don't tell your team you're about to run a competition. Say, hey, if I gave you $50 tomorrow, what would you do with it? Jamie, put you on the spot. $50. What are you going to do? And it can't be something you would normally buy.
Oh, damn it. I would, all I do is online shop. So I would online shop on a website I don't normally go on. So I would say, I'm terrible. And I'm not creative, but I would be very motivated if you immediately told me you're giving me $15 to shop and buy.
So let's play this out. What if you were like, I'd never buy a $50 bottle of wine. And I'd be like, okay, great. If you win, you're like,
I'm like, I have one right here.
If you win, like $50 bottle of wine out, is being sent to your house. And so the point is, you can go to each person on your team, usually pretty quick. Hey, if I gave you X amount of dollars to buy something you wouldn't typically buy for yourself, what would it be? Boom. It's different prizes depending on the winner.
Ooh.
And then go to your team and say, hey, here's the competition. If Jamie wins, she's getting a $50 bottle of wine. If Mark wins, who knows, right? You could list all these
Yeah,
things, and then the team has fun with it too. Jamie, you put the
that's so
ball on the line,
smart.
right?
So,
Yep.
and this works better for people that aren't ridiculous and constantly buying whatever they want for themselves all the time. I would buy a hat. I saw this hat the other day. It was a little turban and it had a crystal zebra head on it. And I would buy that because
Now we're talking.
I was like, I can't buy that. And it was more than $50, but you know, get a good down payment on it. I love that. That is super smart. So in closing, you gotta, if you have a new sales contest, it's your checklist. We're gonna send you a copy of this, so don't worry. But is it correlated to metrics? Is it reinforcing my coaching program, which we'll talk about here in a second? Is it promoting their long-term development? Are they learning stuff? Are they actually like getting skills that are going to continue to bring you dollars and revenue and improve their careers after this is over? And is it right sized for the goal? So if you are wanting to move X needle, have I designed something that is going to get me there? Our next slide, and we're not going to read through all of this, but Mark has touched already on a lot of this, but this is kind of Mark's template that I pulled from a conversation we had one time that I think is so brilliant because, like we said earlier, the most sort of common and possibly abused type of contest is that call blitz. So it's the, hey, you know, this metric is lagging. And if I say, hey, we're going to only focus on this for an hour, and at the end you get $50, you know, people just do that over and over again. And they kind of sleep on those longer tail, initiative based, skills based kind of things. So can you talk to me just a little bit, Mark, super quick, high
Sure.
level, about all three of these and kind of when you would use them?
Yeah. So general rule of thumb, we get this question all the time is I would think about having an employee in a short-term contest and a long-term contest. And I wouldn't do much more than that. Right. So the long-term contest is around a big initiative the company has. Hey, we're rolling out proofs of concept. Great. Let's run a long-term competition around proofs of concept. The blitz is, and we tend to see this in the like highly transactional roles like a sales development, that is your short-term bump. It's fun. Like for us, we do blitzes twice a week with sales development. There's no prize. It's just bragging rights. And it gets posted in front of the whole company. So
Yeah,
think there's value to each, but if you're only doing one or you're only doing the other, you're missing out on a strategic piece that you can
yeah,
help drive even more.
totally. No, I think that's great. And I was going to say too, the one that sort of is like, if you, again, we'll send this template, we won't read all this out, but the one that is matched to what he was mentioning earlier, like an initiative, is that sprint kind of thing where it's like, okay, we are rolling out new pricing. And by the end of this week, we need all of you to be very proficient in feeling comfortable speaking to that, pitching it, like knowing all the materials that you can send them and like you having it memorized or whatever. And you can run competitions too around not just like the big goals, but really around projects almost like that, where you need them. And I love, the thing I love about this, and you said this once, Mark, so I'm going to say it back to you and you can feel really smart, is that you love that kind of competition when you need your eyes on how everyone is developing really quickly and rallying around a point. And I love that because we often think about how the reps are engaging with the competition. We don't think as much about how the sales leader is. And I loved that distinction, that when you're trying to roll something out like that and you gamify it, it just allows you to have this sort of bird's eye view on everything that's happening because it's just running and they're logging everything and you're seeing it and it's happening in real time. So I think
For
that's a really
sure.
cool
It
thing.
accelerates adoption around your new initiative. So if you're a leader out there, you're concerned that people are going to adopt whatever new thing you're rolling out, great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And gives you like sustained visibility into
Yep.
that thing. Okay, so this is our last little bit, and we're a little bit over, but whatever, it's fine. Just hang out with us. We will send this around to you though, so if you need to hop, I get it. But want to talk about high spots. So I recently had the pleasure of sitting down with this fella here. His name is Joe McHugh. He's kind of like a celebrity. I told him this to his face. I was like, you're kind of a celebrity at Ambition. This guy does something. He posts about it on LinkedIn. You should all go link in with him. He's very smart. And Yeah, tell us a little bit more. I'll tell you guys about this specific competition, but what's your take on Joe at High Spot?
Yeah, so Joe, arguably favorite leader. He puts out videos to hype his team around various competitions. And
Yeah,
for example, during Christmas, they ran a 12 days of Christmas
it was an advent
competition.
calendar.
Yeah, each day he had a different person on the team send like a hype video to start the competition. It might be the VP of sales, it might be another sales development rep. But what he does is he has fun with it. My impression, he doesn't overthink it. He just picks what is strategic. He runs a competition around it. He makes a silly video and he sends it out. And there's so much beauty in the simplicity of how he
Yes.
approaches competitions.
That is such a great way to put it. So in my call with him, he revealed this competition that they do, and I then followed up with him 85 times. Like he basically just dropped these knowledge bombs on me, and then cut to getting 55 LinkedIn messages where I was like, okay, I have a lot of follow-up questions. So I'm putting this in a webinar. So Joe at High Spot, what they did at the beginning of 2019. They all had to go home just like we did for COVID. They were based in Seattle. And so they had this 100-person business development team. His team, he's not the only leader on that team, but his team sort of sits within that org. And overnight they had the same problem. The floor fell out, and they don't know if their SDRs are even like awake or showing up or doing their jobs. And so they were like, okay, we got to rally and we got to figure this out. And so this is a challenge just any day, but it was huge last year. And so what happened is that they started doing these things called Hunter Days. So the entire business development org basically, I guess, is broken out into 5 sub teams anyway. So those were their teams. So there's like 5 groups competing. So it's like Joe's team and Sally's team and what have you. They start at 6:30 in the morning. They have breakfast provided for them, he pointed out to me, and hype session, which I need to follow up more and get more input, because I'm sure, like, knowing him, that hype session got you hype.
There's definitely jock jams at that hype session. I can almost guarantee it.
There's jock jams. There's definitely outfits. Like it's good. And so then what they did from there is that they took the call blitz idea, which, by the way, you want to only do like you don't want to burn people out. You want to do, like, for them, it's an hour of sustained calling, and 7 to 8 call blitz, 8 to 8:30 prizes and team score updates. Call blitz number 2, prizes and updates. So there'd be a kind of a heat winner for each one. And then from 10:30 to 11:30, final blitz for all the glory. And then from 11:30 to noon, all the final prizes, the MVPs. So I'm sure they gave out like funny little, person most likely to say dude on a call or whatever. And then one team won. And then by that point, like, everyone got to go home. So they just pack these blitzes into a half day. He provided the scoring here, so you can kind of see how it was all broken out. They did it. You can elaborate, Mark, if you'd like, but they didn't just focus on one metric. It was, you could get different points for different things. So they were really ultimately encouraging, if you want to win and you want to come out on top, then you're going to get prospect commits to take a full demo. Like, that's your goal, but you could still be in the running if somebody hung up on you.
Yeah, the beauty of this is that you're keeping everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
It's not obvious who's going to win from the jump. There are ways to get points. Your effort can be rewarded in addition to the outcome. So no, what I love about this is it's short. It's happening in the morning. It's a few short blitzes.
Yeah.
There's like instant gratification, and that's what works for, again, simplifying the impact of your competition.
Well, and making it the entire organization together too, like, because they've got people, the way that their teams are broken out, they've got people that are probably at various levels in their career too, that are competing against each other for this half day, which I think is also just really neat, because it gets everybody like amped. So this is a beautiful example of that leveling the playing field, like Mark was just saying. So they started doing them during lockdown, and the prizes were, he didn't send me any of the prizes, but the big winner either got a day off or they got a lump sum of money to use however they wanted. And he actually said, when you said $50, I was like, did you look at this earlier? His team won and they used all the money to do an all expenses paid Secret Santa, and they all bought gifts for each other, which I thought was really, really cute. But the outcome of this is that the big sort of KPIs that they were tracking were dials made, call connects, and meetings set. And that 3X, Joe was able, just from having ambition metrics, basically to go to his bosses. He actually presented this internally because his boss was like, yo, 100 days ruled. You got any numbers that can prove that? Because we all are like hyped. When he went and pulled the numbers, he was like, yeah, we looked at a normal Friday where we're just doing our jobs. And then we looked at a 100 days day. And that happened to be a Friday. And every single one of those metrics was 3X what it would have been on a normal day. And it was just 50% of the day spent doing that with 3 times the output, which is just, to our point earlier too, you can't burn people out. You cannot do 100 days every single day. That is not cool or fair. But when you need to ratchet that up, you need to rally everybody. And especially in a remote environment, it's just such a cool, creative example. And like Mark was saying earlier, the prize was like, he didn't even really list what the prizes were. Like, it was not about the prizes. It was about the thrill of kind of just like being in it and breaking up the monotony probably of their days and having
that last part is so important. If you're out there and your team has a highly transactional role, there's a grind to it. Monotony is the right word. So how can you break that up? How can you have some fun? Think about this double blitz in the morning idea that Joe rolled out. Think about your top 2 to 4 metrics. Use that in a short sprint. If you notice, one of those is only 40 minutes. But if those 40 minutes are really good, then you might 3X your productivity or what would happen on a normal day, because everyone's laser focused on the right metrics.
100%. And so last but not least, if you are not familiar with us and you're on the line today, this is who we are. We won some awards. People that are really smart trust us. And you can get a demo at ambition.com/demo. So thank you for sticking with us. Again, we'll send you the recording. Mark, you're a beautiful soul. You're a diamond. You're a gem.
That was fun, Jamie. Let's do it again.
Cool. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.